Bob was always looking over his shoulders and my niece, about a year younger than myself, and we loved dancing. We grew up dancing, and that's all we knew. And so we just so look forward to Thursday and Saturday nights. And I said I spent my young life up here dancing, and we'd dread to see 1 o'clock come. That'd be the end of the dance. And Bob, we used to say that he had eyes in the back of his head, because I mean he kept his eye on us. But we loved to dance, and we loved it. It just like I don't know. And now I feel so. All these memories come flooding back when I come in. The dance floor was wonderful, and you could just dance. It was so smooth, and we were just talking. There were no tables on the dance floor, and we'd dance all around. And I remember one time my younger brother Billy Jack was back from California. You know, he had a band. So Billy Jack said, Breen said, let's get in front of the Bob bandstand. He said, now let's just really go into our dance. I said, all right. So boy, we really did, and I fell. And then we both got so tickled, I couldn't get up, and I was so embarrassed. And Bob was up there looking and pointing that bow, and you know what? I was just as scared of Bob as I was my dad. Because, I mean, here, he just really looked after us. And if we ever wanted to go anywhere after the dance, well, we had to check with him first.
Tell me a little bit about Bob's personality. You hear so many different stories. I've heard stories from Eldon about how he would really take care of people and loan them a lot of money. Was he a generous guy?
Bob was. And as I have said many times, I really don't know what our family would have done without Bob. He was so good. And he bought this pretty place out north for my mother and daddy. And he was just such a giving person. And that's all true. And we used to say that he was Mother's favorite. She always called him Robbie, after her firstborn, you know. And when he'd come to town after he left, he'd always come by our house. Mother'd fix him everything he liked. And he'd just sit there and just said, oh, Mama, I've never had anything this good in so long. He was just, when he was with us, he was just a brother and a son. And he always wanted his family to call him Jim Rob. I guess to give him that close feeling, you know, because we all grew up calling him Jim Rob.
He must have been really popular with not only all the people that came to see him, but a lot of the women must have been crazy about Bob.
Well, now that's true, and a lot of them would sort of cling to us because of Bob. Well, see, Bob knew that, and I know one time that some young women had come out to the house when we lived out north of Tulsa, and he was living with us. During his divorces, he always lived at home. I don't think he ever lived by himself, ever. But as soon as he got to Cains, he called back and he said, don't let Bobby Nell and Lorene leave the place. So they knew, and he was just very protective of us. And Bob was pretty temperamental.
He was what?
He was temperamental. I think, he had such a responsibility. And I think he felt like the family was his responsibility, you know. And there were 10 of us children, and we had it rough. And I just read his book that was written about him in 1938, and I thought, well, I didn't really appreciate him, or I thought that I did until I reread that book. And the hard time that he had when he was young, and his dreams and everything. So,
despite the musical side of Bob, was he a good brother to you?
yes, he was. In fact, they always, everybody used to say that Bob and I looked like Bob. We had eyes alike, but nobody really had eyes like Bob. Because he never missed anything. But he was good. He was good to all of us. And when we'd all get together, he loved to just sit and talk. And with the brothers, it was just a happy, loving family. We didn't have much, but boy, we sure had a lot of togetherness and love. And I can remember as a little girl when we lived in Turkey or Hall County that all of us would be sitting around, and one of the sisters or someone would be reading a novel to all of us. You know, there wasn't much to do if there wasn't music going on. And Bob would be just as interested as we were. And I remember the dances. And I was little then, and I remember thinking, "Oh, I wish they'd just stop. I wish I could go to bed." But that was just our life.
Why do you think so many years after he's gone that these people love coming back and hearing his music? What was it about him and his music?
Well, I don't know. I think Bob was the first. I think, you know, with the Western swing. And after reading this book, he knew exactly what he was doing and what he wanted. He just had such big dreams, and I think if Bob had had a good education, I think he could just no telling what he could have done, or maybe it would have hurt him. I don't know. But I can remember. You could go to all little towns everywhere, and you could hear his broadcast. It was just, it was on the jukebox. You turn on the radio, you'd hear it on just stations. And I think there was just something about him. He felt it when he walked in. I remember Wade Ray, which is a musician, a fiddle player, and he just idolized Bob. And when Bob was appearing in Las Vegas, I was there, and he was a friend of mine. He said, when Bob handed me his fiddle to play, but he just said, you always know when Bob Wills walks in. He said, there's just something about him, and there was. I don't know what it was.
It's been said that, or I've heard people say, even though he went all over the world performing, and some of his happiest days were the ones here at Cains and in Tulsa. You know if that's...
Well, yeah, I think so. I think his best days was just when he was really beginning to make it. Because it had such a hard time, you know, in Fort Worth and then Waco and Oklahoma City, and he got here, and I think that he really began to enjoy it, and he could get the kind of band he wanted. And but he just wanted to travel, just try different states. You know, where my brother Johnny Lee, he wanted to stay here. So. Actually, Tulsa, Bob always considered Tulsa home, and that's where he wanted to be buried, here. But he was, I think he was quite a remarkable man. I really do. He just had so many different things about him, and I think he was deeply religious. And I think he had a guilt about that, because he would say something, and when he was a young boy, he thought that he was going to preach. That's what he wanted to do. So he had all of that. So he had all that goodness, and then with that, with his music, and then with his honoriness, and so he made quite a man.
Well, thank you. I know they're about to